Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Alastair McDonald. The channel is Back to Air Pistol, and it's called that because I've come back to Air Pistol after a very long break. And this is the Feinwerkbau P8x. In the last episode we worked on the grip, and in this episode we're going to look at adjusting the trigger itself. Not just the trigger shoe, but adjusting the trigger, and show you all the screws that are required for that. So let's get into it. So before I start this, what I'm going to do is take away the trigger guard, and there's no need for you to do that at all. This is purely so that the camera can see what I'm doing clearer, especially when I start to rotate and look at the screws on the inside. And I will also cover up part of the pistol so that the camera gets better exposure, because when it's got the bright cylinder here it makes other things a bit darker, because I'm using automatic exposure and not manual, because I'm being lazy. Anyway, what we want to do is look at the screws within here. So in here we've got two screws straight away. Let's just zoom in and have a look at that. So if we look closely on the inside here, we have two screws, this one and this one. That's 46 and 48, otherwise referred to as F1 and S1. Screw 46 here adjusts the trigger weight for the first stage, this stage here. If you want to increase that weight, which will have an effect on the overall weight and the trigger test, is you return that clockwise, and if you want to decrease, you turn that anti-clockwise. That's F1, F1 number 46. Increase, decrease. So now I want to look at S1, which is screw number 48, and if I want to reduce the amount of movement of that trigger there, I turn anti-clockwise. So I'm going to do, so the screw's actually in, the Allen key's in, so it's half a turn, that's a full turn, and we'll have a look at what the trigger does. Let's go this way. So there's still quite a bit of movement there. I'm going to do another full turn, anti-clockwise. Very little movement now. And I'm going to do half a turn. Almost no movement at all. Now at this stage of the game I'm going to say very clearly, make sure the dry fire switch is in place so that you don't accidentally fire anything off. Now there shouldn't be anything in there in the first place, it should just go click, but make sure there's nothing in that pistol before you start working. Let's see if we can make that even shorter. Would half a turn be too much maybe? Let's see. Oh, that actually went off on its own. I'm trying to get the focus back to where I want it to be. Bit worried that the shot went off on its own. Right, I'm going to take that back a fraction. So I did half a turn. I'm going to take it back a quarter of a turn. So there's some movement. It seems very, very light. Can you hear the click? And then it goes off. So I can actually bounce. I'm going to put the microphone beside it. Okay. So what I haven't done so far is actually show you what happens when I adjust screw 43 to adjust the distance after. So let's have a look at that. So this is screw 43 here, hiding underneath behind the trigger, and if I turn that anti-clockwise, it's going to give me more movement after the trigger. So you saw there was no movement at all, so let's go half, one, and that feels quite loose now. I'm just going to stop right there and we'll see what that does to the trigger. So cock it again. Now remember, before there was no movement after the trigger at all, after the trigger point, and now you can see that movement there behind. Now it's quite a solid clunk beforehand, so as the shot goes off it's stiff, but then it goes. The more I play with that, the more I can feel the movements there. So if I was competing, I would pull the trigger and I've got room behind that for a little bit of follow through. I'm going to put that back to where it was by inserting there and going a full half clockwise, and that should now stop the amount of movement after the trigger has gone. There's a little bit there. Another half. So it's very, very small amount of movement. So there's a tiny click beforehand and a little bit of movement afterwards. So the first thing to admit is we're actually on the second day of filming now. You can tell by the fact I've changed my top. I got my Elton John tour top on now. I've got lots and lots of tour tops, quite an eclectic range of music I listen to. Anyway, this is the ISSF 500 gram weight, and we're going to test the trigger and see if it passes. Okay. Come in a bit closer and you won't see all the light stands and things now. You're seeing behind the scenes here. Right, let's cock the pistol and see if it will actually lift this trigger weight. 500 grams, ISSF standard. No, it's just floating, but I'm not happy with that. No, that failed. Okay, so it didn't actually lift properly. It just floated off the table, and what I want to do is just increase that. So to increase the trigger weight, you turn clockwise, and I'm just going to go a quarter. Let's go half. We'll go full half just now, and then test it again and see what we get. Right, we're back. We've done some adjustments. Let's try again. That was better, but I did it a bit quick. I couldn't see. Try again. Yay! That passed. I'm a lot happier now. I've got the trigger just as I want it. I might do a little bit more adjusting on the before and after, but it now lifts the weight. That's the important thing, and it lifts it well. It doesn't just and no more get off the board here, off the table. It lifts it properly, and it's good to do that because when you go to a competition and the person who's lifting it isn't quite as easy on it as you are and is a bit rough, it will go off every time. So you have to be very smooth at lifting it if it's just going to get off and no more. So make sure you can lift that quite well but make sure it's not too heavy so you don't end up with trigger freeze. Okay, so what we managed to do today is, using screw F1, we were able to adjust the weight on here if I wanted to, by turning clockwise to increase or anti-clockwise to decrease. S1 took the movement away the first stage completely, and doing that was by turning anti-clockwise to decrease the amount of movement before the trigger point. If I wanted to increase, you would turn it clockwise. And of course, on the inside we had the main screw, which is F2 for adjusting the weight, and then there's the other screw on the trigger for the trigger stop to adjust the amount of movement after the trigger goes off. So there's a tiny click beforehand and a little bit of movement afterwards. So what I want is no movement beforehand, half, and it went off. So go back, and then this one clockwise again, so I'm just going to cock that again, and it's quite tight. There's nothing there at all now. It's locked. So that's the risk you have of tightening that too much. There we go. So it's right on the edge. There's a fraction of movement, nothing beforehand, and it goes. That's how I want my pistol. Well, that's trigger adjustment done. Thank you very much for watching this far. Not sure what I'll be showing you next, but it'll come up in a little while. Until then, thank you very much for watching, and please remember to click like and subscribe. It really helped me, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.